In the expansive Lakewood Church in Houston, a charismatic pastor with an impeccable reputation was on the verge of encountering a figure no amount of fame could eclipse. What started as a broadcasted message on belief and optimism escalated into conflict when stardom clashed with principles, and ego took the lead. Chuck Norris wasn't an ordinary religious visitor or inspirational collaborator. Over 5 decades, he had served as a military veteran, karate master, and devout fighter recognized for transforming aggression into self-mastery and quietude into authority. When Joel Osteen's poise fractured and his arm lashed out, he didn't realize he was challenging the composure of someone skilled in managing turmoil without retaliation. Norris's composed evasion went beyond mere discipline. It served as a reflection for the essence of any individual concealing themselves behind pretense, sparking a nationwide ethical ripple. An occasion centered on motivation evolved into a live-streamed confrontation seen by countless viewers. The platform once dedicated to abundance collapsed under the force of honesty, modesty, and one instance of self-restraint. Before we continue, share your location with us. If this narrative resonates, be sure to follow our channel, as I have a unique surprise lined up for tomorrow. The Lakewood Church shone like a bastion of belief beneath the Houston sunlight. Formerly a sports venue, it now functioned as a sanctuary of encouragement, accommodating more than 16,000 attendees that Sunday night. Exterior digital displays as large as advertisements proclaimed the Inner Strength Summit. Aerial footage showed cues wrapping the structure, while indoors the vibe buzzed with eagerness. 28-year-old Ethan Cruz got caught up in the throng, his faded Chuck Norris tee concealed under a collared shirt. Half a year after his dad's passing, he bore sorrow like a heavy burden. He arrived in search of guidance, meaning the sort of resilience that held firm amid life's harshness. "Isn't this venue incredible?" a lady beside him murmured while they settled in. "It's larger than the Rockets arena." Ethan agreed, absorbing the multitude of people, the enormous platform, the setup rivaling any live performance he'd seen. Giant displays highlighted crowd reactions, faces full of anticipation and eagerness. The timer indicated 3 minutes to start. From the control room above the hall, Marcus Hale fine-tuned his earpiece and reviewed the array of screens. At 42, he'd handled productions from talk shows to political forums, yet nothing matched this. Religious content brought in serious revenue, particularly with Joel Osteen's radiant grin dominating the feed. "We're full," his aide noted. "Online interactions are shattering previous highs." Marcus approved, inputting directives. "Virtual audiences hitting 7 digits, he remarked. "And that's prior to our featured visitor. This is a professional milestone, Amy." Behind the scenes, Rebecca Osteen adjusted her spouse's immaculate neckline, spotting the strain in his gaze. After 2 decades together, she could detect Joel's stress in the faint tightening of his mouth, the way his grin fell short of sincerity. "Anxious?" she inquired. Joel Osteen dismissed it, his renowned smile locking in, merely concentrated. "This gathering must go flawlessly. Folks depend on my delivery." Rebecca paused. "Chuck Norris got here ahead of schedule. He's in the lounge." Joel's expression wavered briefly. Fine. Is he clear on the setup?" "He's meant to support my points, not steal the focus." "Joel," Rebecca murmured gently. "He's a visitor, not an accessory." Alert signals blinked, and Joel straightened, shifting into his refined, broadcast-prepared self. "It'll work out. Things occur for a purpose, correct? That's our message to everyone." As Joel advanced to the platform, Rebecca observed him depart, a twinge of worry knotting inside her. Lately, she'd observed the divide between Joel's teachings and his reality, how fame had infiltrated his beliefs, converting modesty into a show instead of a habit. The interior illumination faded. Quiet descended on the group. On signal, music surged, something grand with rising violins and a pulsing rhythm. Beams swept the area as Joel Osteen emerged energetically, hands lifted in welcome, his billion-dollar grin sparkling under the glow. "Houston," he proclaimed, his tone magnified to the uppermost tiers. "What an ideal evening to honor the power God has instilled in every single one of you." The assembly burst forth. Devices rose to record the scene. Ethan got swept into the vibe despite his doubts. Joel possessed an undeniable pull, a sleek charm that compelled faith. "This evening focuses on discovering the winner inside," Joel went on, striding the space like an encouragement maestro. On realizing that you are designed for greater than the hardships attempting to suppress you. For 40 minutes, Joel crafted a mosaic of stories and verses, each reinforcing his theme of optimism and wealth. The group replied with affirmations and cheers, surfing the sentimental surge he built. Marcus, monitoring from the station, observed the participation stats soaring. "Ideal," Marcus whispered. "Now introduce Norris." Joel halted in his path, allowing suspense to grow. His grin broadened as he motioned to the wing. "Now everyone, I've arranged for a remarkable individual to illustrate genuine internal power. A person who represents control and devotion. Give a warm reception to the icon himself, Chuck Norris." The gathering detonated. Ethan's pulse quickened as his youthful idol stepped forward. No flashy arrival, no musical build-up. Merely a matured figure, yet sturdy, exuding that distinct serene assurance. Chuck Norris proceeded to the center with deliberate strides, attired plainly in navy pants and a collared top. While Joel vibrated with vigor, Chuck remained anchored. While Joel directed with loudness, Chuck engaged with tranquility. They clasped hands, Joel with lively enthusiasm, Chuck with deliberate solidity. Joel patted Chuck's back like longtime pals. "The figure, the folklore, the hero," Joel declared, engaging the assembly. "I admired your movies growing up, sir." "We all did." Chuck offered a warm, sincere grin and inclined his head in thanks to the crowd. When he eventually addressed the mic Joel provided, his tone resonated without volume. "Appreciate the invitation," he stated plainly. "It's a privilege to be in this sacred space tonight." The difference stood out instantly and vividly. Following Joel's torrent of speech and motion, Chuck's serenity resembled entering calm waters. The group quieted, shifting ahead a bit as though intuitively sensing this individual wouldn't yell for notice. His aura demanded it alone. In the operations area, Marcus squinted. Close up on Joel's reaction, he directed the crew. "Capture it on the displays." Joel's look shifted from respect to an indefinable unease as he briefly stopped being the central luminary. "Chuck has kindly consented to discuss his path of devotion and resilience," Joel stated, signaling for Chuck to assume the lead. "A path that mirrors what I've shared with you over time." Rebecca, observing from the side, noted the nuanced manner Joel placed himself, not as a learner from Chuck's insights, but as a peer. She observed as well the barely noticeable lift of Chuck's brow at the parallel. Prior to starting, Joel added, "I figured we'd display a montage of Chuck's top highlights from films and his outreach efforts. The monitors illuminated with segments, Chuck's famous combat sequences, his philanthropic activities, his declarations of belief." The assembly cheered each memorable visual. Amid this presentation, Chuck waited silently, palms joined ahead, his demeanor that of someone who had grasped long ago that societal praise and personal merit were distinct values. Once the clip concluded, Joel rejoined Chuck, maintaining that perfect grin. "Remarkable heritage," Joel commented. "Truly remarkable. Now, Chuck, explain to us, what does internal resilience signify for you?" As Chuck accepted the mic, Ethan inclined ahead in his chair. This was his reason for attending, to absorb knowledge from a figure who appeared to incarnate the fortitude his dad had respected. "Internal resilience," Chuck commenced, his tone deliberate and reflective, "isn't defined by the force of your blow. It's about holding steady when existence strikes you." The assembly voiced agreement. Joel assented vigorously, though a flash appeared in his gaze, a brief awareness that Chuck's explanation held a depth his own refined expressions occasionally missed. "That's impactful," Joel inserted swiftly. "It echoes my section on endurance in my publication." "If you'll allow," Chuck proceeded softly, not exactly disrupting but refusing to relinquish the moment. "Authentic fortitude is frequently most silent when it's strongest. It doesn't require proclamation." A wave of regard swept the group. On his screen, Marcus spotted Joel's grin stiffen subtly. The director leaned in, detecting a change in the gathering's dynamic. "An alteration is occurring," he whispered to his aide. "Keep focus on their expressions. Capture everything." On the platform, Joel rested a palm on Chuck's back, redirecting the crowd's focus with a chuckle that rang marginally strained. "And that's precisely why I invited Chuck this evening," Joel declared, "to emphasize that fortitude can appear unlike our assumptions. Now let's explore how that fortitude links to wealth and advancement." But as Joel tried to guide the dialogue to comfortable ground, Chuck's firm stare stayed constant. And in the forward rows, Ethan Cruz sensed the initial hints of an unforeseen development. the impression that under this motivational gathering's glossy exterior, fractures were emerging. Rebecca Osteen, viewing from the side, hugged herself, a silent invocation forming. She perceived it, the understated strain accumulating between two contrasting forms of resilience. And intuition suggested that by night's end, all would witness which endured under pressure. The exchange progressed evenly initially, a scripted interplay of cliches and motivation. Joel would raise an inquiry on self-control or belief. Chuck would reply with balanced insight, and Joel would reshape the response to fit his abundance theme. The crowd, enchanted by both figures' attendance, appeared unaware of the understated contest unfolding. But Rebecca perceived it from her spot off stage. She noted each tiny facial shift on her spouse's visage, the narrowing near his eyes when Chuck earned unprompted cheers, the manner his motions grew broader, as though bodily reclaiming the area. "He's becoming unsettled," she muttered to herself. On the platform, Joel walked with rehearsed vitality. "You know, Chuck, you've confronted numerous rivals in your profession, in movies and karate tournaments. How do you ready your mindset for such trials?" Chuck pondered the query thoughtfully. "I prepare by recalling that my toughest adversary is always me, my own arrogance, my own anxieties. Outer trials merely echo inner conflicts." The crowd assented approvingly. Ethan inclined further, identifying a principle his dad had attempted to impart before illness claimed him prematurely. "Precisely," Joel interjected. "That's what I convey each weekend. The battle is decided in your thoughts. That's the power of optimistic and affluent mindset. When you view yourself as favored and elevated." With deference, Chuck inserted mildly, "I believe there's a distinction between upbeat mindset and genuine serenity. One concerns our desires from life. The other involves embracing reality even amid hardship." A whisper spread through the assembly. In the oversight room, Marcus Hale sat up, feeling the mood alter. "Lens 3, tight on Joel's visage," he ordered. "Lens 2 on Chuck. Miss nothing." Joel's grin stayed locked, but a faint color rose along his collar. "Naturally, embracing is part of the process," he remarked with a laugh that missed its mark. "But God desires plenty for us. He aims for us to flourish, not merely endure." Chuck assented reflectively. "Maybe. But I've discovered that real fortitude shines brightest in deprivation and boundaries, not in excess." The phrase lingered. For Ethan, it struck as enlightenment, an allowance to derive significance from his mourning rather than bypassing it. Joel's pace stumbled a bit. This deviated from the intended flow. He looked to the side, meeting Rebecca's gaze. She gave a supportive incline, but he detected the worry beneath. "Let's make this applicable for everyone," Joel stated, adjusting. "Chuck, you've achieved tremendous accomplishment. Cinema, series, enterprise endeavors. How does devotion factor into that triumph?" It was a reroute, a method to return to Joel's familiar realm of attainment and wealth. But Chuck veered from the anticipated pattern. "Accomplishment," Chuck echoed, his look contemplative. "I've received opportunities for sure, but I've faltered much more often than triumphed. Those setbacks instructed me beyond any victory." He halted, connecting sincerely with the crowd. "My devotion isn't tied to accomplishments. It's about my identity when all is removed, when lights fade, when eyes avert." The suggestion lingered unspoken yet clear. In a venue founded on display, Chuck had subtly implied that genuine devotion transcended show. Joel's grin tensed. "Nicely put. Very nicely put," he cleared his vocal cords. "It evokes a tale I frequently recount." "If I can contribute," Chuck stated, his manner courteous yet resolute. "At times our finest service isn't in statements, but in reactions to adversity. Expressions are simple. Embodying them is tougher." The crowd cheered instinctively, sincerely. It wasn't the courteous, cued reaction to Joel's standard slogans, but something profound, real. In the operations station, Marcus bent toward his comm. "Did you catch that?" He's subtly confronting Joel, but effectively. His aide assented, mesmerized by the feeds. Joel notices it as well. See his expression. Truly, Joel's demeanor had altered. The lens seized it flawlessly, the brief lapse in his grin, the spark of what could be annoyance or fury before the expert facade returned. "Profound observation," Joel rebounded, though his tone held a fresh sharpness. "And regarding adversity, let's discuss self-mastery. Chuck, you're renowned for your exercise routine and karate training. How does bodily self-mastery relate to spiritual fortitude?" It was an intentional shift from genuineness back to something ostentatious, something favoring visuals over essence. Chuck appeared to identify the tactic. His gaze, benevolent yet piercing, locked on Joel's for an extended instant. Bodily self-mastery is merely an instrument, he responded. The key is the purpose driving it. Do we train for show or utility? Do we prioritize apparent power or actual capability? The inquiry persisted. Some attendees fidgeted, detecting the undertone. From his position, Ethan observed the exchange with increasing interest. He'd arrived anticipating motivation. Instead, he was seeing something unprocessed and authentic, a clash of ideologies masked as amicable dialogue. On the platform, Joel's posture had evolved. His actions grew more insistent. His volume rose marginally, as if reclaiming dominance via loudness. Visuals count as well, though. Joel rebutted with a dramatic wave to the group. We're representatives of Christ. When folks observe achievement and superiority, they're drawn to our teachings. Chuck inclined his head gradually. That's valid, but I've learned people are most attracted to sincerity, to instances when facades drop and genuine hardships emerge. Flawless visuals foster separation. Common experiences build bonds. The statement draped over the assembly like a mild correction. At that point, something changed in the space, a group awareness that they were observing beyond a discussion. They were viewing a core conflict of perspectives. Rebecca detected the mounting strain. She signaled a stage coordinator, wordlessly questioning if they should transition. The coordinator shrugged, similarly unsure. In the oversight station, Marcus thrummed with anticipation. This is priceless, he breathed. Absolute priceless. Stay locked in. On the platform, Joel attempted once more, his tone now bearing an evident sharpness under the grin. Well, Chuck, you've preserved your persona effectively through the decades. The Chuck Norris label is iconic. I don't dwell on my label, Chuck interposed. The mildness in his tone sharpened the opposition. I emphasize my integrity. One serves public appetite. The other defines my true self. A whisper coursed through the throng. The inference was unavoidable. Joel's grin froze, his eyes mismatched to the curve of his mouth. He checked the display screen, then returned to Chuck with a strained laugh. Integrity is key. Definitely. That's what I mentioned before about. Occasionally, Chuck remarked softly. Expressions fall short, Joel. The declaration suspended like a silent boom. Plain, straightforward, unembellished. The crowd's response was instant. A shared inhale, then restless shifting. Some traded looks, others examined their schedules. A handful assented gravely. Ethan experienced a shiver along his back. In 5 plain terms, Chuck had condensed the unease he'd always sensed in vast congregations like this. The persistent feeling that depth lacked under the gloss and staging. Preparing and narrating this account required considerable effort from us. So if it's engaging you, join our channel. It supports us greatly. Now, resuming the account. Offstage, Rebecca shut her eyes momentarily. She'd noticed the indicators accumulating, had sensed the pressure rising, but even she hadn't foreseen such an outright test. From his oversight station, Marcus Hale clutched his aide's limb in thrill. Did you catch that? He whispered. Did you hear what he uttered to Joel Osteen on his own platform? On the platform? Joel paused rigidly for an instant, the expert grin still affixed, but his gaze now keen with something nearing rage. The veneer was fading. Well, Joel remarked, his tone constrained yet managed. We each convey our beliefs uniquely, right? My purpose is to elevate, to motivate, and you excel at it. Chuck assented with an incline. But motivation lacking base collapses during actual crises. Another stir among the throng. Another stretch of strain between the pair. Joel's grip constricted noticeably on his mic. The lenses recorded everything. The paling of his joints, the mild shake in his groomed digits. Let's discuss your base then, Joel stated, his tone holding a dare. You've constructed a substantial domain yourself. Cinema, broadcasts, workout gear, writings, all transient. Chuck answered steadily. All elements that diminish. What persists is our treatment of others offstage, our management of influence, our reaction to tests. The stress on that final term was nuanced yet clear, a straightforward recognition of their ongoing dynamic. Joel's expert conduct fractured more. His following statements emerged harsher, the guise of cordiality eroding perilously. And how precisely do you react to tests, Chuck? With all that karate expertise, I suppose it's rather definitive. The query bore a sting. The initial openly hostile action in what had been subtle contention until now. Chuck held Joel's stare firmly, undisturbed by the taunt. Genuine fortitude knows when to withhold, he answered. Anyone can lash out. Holding back demands more. Holding back. The term seemed to float between them. a quality both articulated and exemplified. Joel's mouth clenched visibly. He faced the assembly with an overly wide grin that skipped his eyes. Well, everyone, I believe we're delving into philosophy a bit. Let's return to useful guidance for everyday routines. May I complete my idea? Chuck requested, his manner polite yet steadfast. Joel wavered, trapped between etiquette and escalating annoyance. The assembly observed, jointly suspending breath. Certainly, Joel uttered at last, the terms forced through his grin. Thanks, Chuck pivoted to speak to the assembly straight. The most resilient individual anywhere isn't the one compelling submission. It's the one confident enough to yield, to hear, to adjust when required. Authentic influence isn't in overpowering others. It's in commanding oneself. The statements echoed across the vast area. In his place, Ethan sensed them strike as fact, the type his dad would have endorsed. Basic, plain, genuine. The assembly cheered instinctively and earnestly before Joel could reply. It wasn't the prompted, courteous acclaim from before, but something true, deserved. And in that instant, noting the feedback, something changed in Joel's demeanor. The veneer slipped more, exposing not merely annoyance now, but something profound. A hint of doubt, maybe even apprehension. Rebecca spotted it from offstage and advanced instinctively. She understood her spouse, the burden he imposed on himself, the meticulously built persona he upheld. She identified the signals of his equilibrium unraveling. In the oversight station, Marcus perceived it too. Hold close on Joel, he commanded his crew. Tension's mounting. I sense it. On the platform, Joel reclaimed the mic, his actions now marginally too abrupt, his renowned grin frayed at the borders. Well, that's a wise viewpoint, he conceded, though his inflection implied otherwise. But recall that Jesus displayed justified fury when necessary. At times fortitude means holding firm. Valid, Chuck concurred. But Jesus' fury never protected his pride or status. It safeguarded others, particularly the defenseless. The separation lingered, implied yet evident, a boundary between self-centered reaction and value-based reply. Joel's equilibrium dipped another level. The assembly witnessed it unfolding live, the meticulously preserved surface starting to split under strain. Are you implying I'm driven by pride, Chuck? Joel queried, a risky tone infiltrating his voice. Chuck maintained his stare steadily. I'm not implying anything specific to you, Joel. I'm relating what I've gleaned from my own lapses and battles with arrogance. The tactful reply failed to ease Joel's rising unrest. If anything, Chuck's serenity amplified it, underscoring their disparity. Because it appears you arrived at my venue, my occasion, to instruct me, Joel persisted, the facade of relaxed talk fully discarded, which strikes as its own form of arrogance, doesn't it? A joint inhale swept the assembly. In his place, Ethan straightened, detecting the transition from intellectual strain to individual clash. Rebecca advanced, fully visible at the platform's edge now, meeting Joel's gaze and offering a subtle headshake, a mute request for moderation. But Joel either missed it or disregarded the caution. Chuck stayed composed. I arrived because of your invitation, Joel, to discuss resilience candidly. That's my approach. And you believe you're more resilient than me? Joel urged, his volume increasing faintly. Is that the point? The query suspended, bare and unrefined. The assembly fidgeted restlessly. This deviated from the refined, elevating occasion they'd anticipated. Chuck's demeanor revealed initial worry, not for his sake but for Joel, for the evolving scenario before thousands. This isn't about pitting us against each other, Chuck stated cautiously. That's contrary to my message. But Joel had surpassed some inner limit, shifting from managed annoyance to something unstable. His subsequent terms emerged pointed, acute. It's simple to preach modesty when you're Chuck Norris, right? When your entire persona rests on being the most formidable presence. The charge was unjust and telling, a reflection of Joel's personal doubts more than a precise evaluation of Chuck's conduct. In the oversight station, Marcus was nearly floating with thrill. Are you recording this? He insisted from his crew. Confirm we're capturing all of it. On the platform, Chuck inhaled deliberately, his look empathetic rather than insulted. Joel, he remarked softly, perhaps we should pause, gather our ideas. The proposal, sensible, kind, appeared only to intensify Joel's unrest. To the observing assembly, the contrast was sharp. Chuck becoming calmer as Joel grew visibly agitated. No pause needed, Joel maintained, his tone now daring. We're engaging in candid talk on resilience, aren't we? That's your desire. Chuck glanced at Rebecca offstage, a wordless inquiry in his gaze. She advanced, prepared to mediate, but Joel halted her with emotion. Let's apply this, Joel proceeded, facing Chuck with a fervor that unsettled the assembly. Demonstrate actual resilience, Chuck, not mere terms, deeds. A perilous boundary was breached. All in the space sensed it. The rise from intellectual discord to individual dare. Chuck stayed motionless, his stance relaxed yet vigilant. I believe we're exhibiting varied resiliences currently, Joel, he remarked evenly. And that's beneficial for all observing. The tactful reply seemed to aggravate Joel more. He approached nearer to Chuck, the pretense of casual exchange wholly forsaken. Now you, Joel uttered, his tone strained with held feeling. I believe it's easy to critique from afar, to enter another's domain and judge. To act the sage expert while others handle the tough task of motivating folks consistently. Chuck began to answer, but Joel continued, his terms accelerating, propelled by something beyond the current discord. Do you grasp what it's like to shoulder the devotional load of millions? To have each statement examined? To be the symbol folks seek for encouragement? Joel's volume escalated, the pressure obvious. You portray the adventure champion. I must be flawless, never waver, never stumble, never reveal fragility. It was a surprising display of openness, a peek past the meticulously upheld exterior. For a short instant, the assembly glimpsed not the refined broadcast minister, but a person straining under his own societal persona. In the ensuing quiet, Chuck's demeanor softened with true empathy. Joel, he remarked softly, that load seems draining, but it's unnecessary to bear. The kindness in his tone, the lack of criticism, appeared to impact Joel stronger than any reproach. Something crossed his visage, awareness maybe or a flash of insight, but it was swiftly overtaken by his emotional drive. Don't condescend to me, Joel retorted, the terms resounding via the audio. Not in my own venue. The assembly shifted uneasily. This wasn't the elevating, motivational gathering they'd sought. This was something unrefined. Unrehearsed human weakness laid bare under intense illumination. Rebecca acted decisively now, advancing onto the platform with a rehearsed grin. I believe this could be an ideal moment for a brief intermission, she declared, her tone inviting yet firm. Our music group has a lovely piece ready. No. Joel's denial was swift and definitive. He pivoted back to Chuck, something defiant in his pose now. We're discussing resilience, about practicing what you advocate. Correct, Chuck? Chuck held Joel's stare firmly. His demeanor neither cowed nor hostile, just attentive, balanced. At times, resilience means recognizing when to halt, Chuck proposed softly, when to retreat and contemplate. And at times, Joel rebutted, advancing even nearer to Chuck. Resilience means defending your position. Isn't that the foundation of your entire fame? The strain in the space was tangible now. Rebecca signaled the oversight station, gesturing a slice with her palm, indicating Marcus to halt, to switch to break, to intervene. But Marcus, detecting landmark broadcasting, feigned ignorance. On the platform, the pair confronted each other, Joel pulsing with scarcely contained feeling, Chuck immobile and centered. The difference couldn't be sharper. You've earned a fortune instructing folks on combat, Joel went on, his tone bearing a sharpness that discomforted the assembly. Why not illustrate it here and now? It was a startling intensification beyond intellectual discord, beyond individual irritation into outright incitement. Chuck shook his head mildly. That's not my purpose here, Joel. And it's not what these folks attended for, isn't it? Joel urged, motioning to the throng. Aren't they interested in what occurs if the renowned adventure star must apply his abilities for real? I certainly am, the assembly whispered, unsure how to react. Some appeared awkward, others intrigued. Ethan sensed his gut tighten with unease. Chuck stayed steadfast, his serenity intact. What precisely are you requesting, Joel? Joel approached closer yet, near enough that the assembly could observe the strain in his frame, the rigidity in his mouth. His following terms issued through clenched teeth, his volume low but clearly captured by the mic. I'm inquiring if you're as formidable as the myth claims, or if it's merely lens illusions and precise cuts. The dare suspended, unmistakable. Rebecca advanced again, her look blending astonishment and distress. Joel, she uttered, her tone cautionary. Enough, but Joel ignored her. He was ensnared in something brewing longer than this night, perhaps years. The strain of flawlessness, the fatigue of constant performance. the weariness of upholding an unmarred persona. In a smooth action, astounding all present, Joel lifted his palm and shoved Chuck's torso, not forcefully enough to injure, but clearly confrontational. A tangible breach of the boundary that had simmered during their exchange. "Prove it, Joel," insisted, his tone constrained. "Prove this moderation you boast about." A shared gasp ascended from the assembly. Devices elevated further, documenting the inconceivable unfolding. In the oversight station, Marcus leaned ahead, eyes widened with incredulity and shadowy thrill. "Are you capturing this?" he whispered to his crew. "Confirm we're recording every instant." On the platform, Chuck glanced at Joel's palm, then up at Joel's visage. His demeanor wasn't furious. If anything, it conveyed deep sorrow, empathy for the disintegration occurring before him. "This isn't your true self, Joel," Chuck remarked softly. "This isn't the person you aim to be." The basic declaration, given without intensity, appeared to heighten Joel's unrest further. His palm still on Chuck's torso, he leaned nearer. "You don't understand me," he stated, his tone raw with feeling. "You don't grasp what I endure, what I bear." Chuck assented, recognizing the validity. "True, I don't. But I identify the appearance of someone battling internally more than externally. I've faced it myself." For a fleeting instant, something altered in Joel's demeanor, a spark of acknowledgement, perhaps even appreciation for being genuinely perceived. But his emotional drive was too potent to stop. With an action that seemed to astonish even him, Joel retracted his palm and aimed a strike at Chuck Norris. The hit never connected in a motion so seamless it seemed nearly effortless. Chuck adjusted slightly aside. Joel's attempt met only void, the force propelling him awkwardly ahead. For a frozen instant, the minister stood off-kilter, limb outstretched, the bodily representation of the internal imbalance that had led to this. Across the enormous hall, 16,000 inhalations paused. Devices documented all in crisp detail, their illuminated displays like constellations amid the dimmed crowd. In the production area, Marcus Hale uttered a lone term, part supplication and part expletive. As he grasped, he was observing a profession-shaping transmission. Chuck's palm shifted then, not to retaliate but to stabilize Joel at the joint, averting a tumble. The action was nearly fatherly, imbued with empathy that rendered the scene even more poignant. "Inhale, Joel," Chuck remarked softly. His tone registered by the mics but meant solely for the figure before him. Simply inhale. The tenderness in those terms appeared to dislodge something in Joel. He uprighted, eyes expanded with emerging dread of his recent action, what he'd attempted before thousands of observers and innumerable lenses. Rebecca advanced now, traversing the platform purposefully. But Joel lifted a palm to halt her. His complexion had paled, the famed grin absent. Instead was something unprocessed and revealed. A person facing the chasm between his teachings and conduct. Joel started, then halted, seeking terms that eluded him. The quiet extended agonizingly. The assembly stayed immobile, jointly digesting the witnessed event. Joel Osteen, the beaming emblem of contemporary devotion, the refined promoter of optimism, had just aimed a blow at Chuck Norris on his platform during a streamed gathering on internal resilience. Ethan Cruz remained still, his feelings a knot of letdown and intrigue. The figure he'd sought, the advocate of hope and success, had just exposed his philosophy's boundaries in the most exposed manner. On the platform, Chuck freed Joel's joint, granting distance but staying attentive. His gaze held no criticism, only firm empathy that seemed to wound deeper than any admonition. "I regret that," Joel eventually voiced, his tone devoid of typical assurance. He spoke to Chuck straight, not engaging the crowd this time. I can't explain what overcame me." Chuck inclined once, accepting the regret with basic honor. "Strain exposes what training has readied us for," he remarked softly. "We each have limits." The terms weren't intended to humiliate, but they bore a significance that draped the hall. In that instant, Chuck wasn't a film star or fighter. He was merely a person embodying truth, uneasy yet essential. Joel gulped visibly, scanning the shocked expressions of his followers. For years he had advocated progress and triumph. He had assured them devotion would render them immovable. Yet there he was, profoundly rattled. "I believe," Rebecca stated, advancing with soft command. "We should pause now." She motioned to the song director, who assented swiftly and headed to the keys. But Joel dismissed with a headshake. something determined shaping his look. "No," he uttered, his tone coarse but stabilizing. "No further shows, no further evasions." He pivoted to confront the followers directly. "You all arrived expecting motivation," he stated, the term surfacing with effort. "Instead, you've seen my shortfall, my duplicity." A whisper coursed the assembly. This wasn't the familiar Joel Osteen, the refined, upbeat persona who never admitted uncertainty or shadow. This was someone new, unprocessed, unaltered. In the production area, Marcus reclined, his look transitioning from thrill to something intricate. I can't define it anymore," he whispered. "On the platform," Joel proceeded, his tone building force, not from assurance now, but from fresh sincerity. "For years I've instructed you that devotion renders us resilient. That conviction protects from frailty." He glanced at Chuck, then the crowd. "But I believe I've misunderstood it." The confession suspended, astonishing in its modesty, crushing in its ramifications. Thousands sat mute as their devotional guide openly doubted his teaching's core. "The theme was internal resilience tonight," Joel stated, pointing to Chuck. "And I believe we've all just grasped its true form. It's not in hostility. It's not even in achievement." His tone cracked faintly. "It's in moderation. In the fortitude to confront personal shortfalls without evasion." Chuck stayed silent, his attendance firm yet non-intrusive. This instant was Joel's, a settlement long overdue. From his place, Ethan observed with blended regret and unwilling admiration. The base had collapsed. The figure had tumbled. But emerging was something potentially more precious. A person striving for sincerity. "I regret to all of you," Joel proceeded. "But particularly," he turned to Chuck, holding his gaze, "I regret to you, sir. You arrived as my invitee and I viewed you as a risk. Because inwardly, I think I've started seeing challengers as threats to my constructed persona." Chuck inclined once, the basic motion expressing both receipt and comprehension. Offstage, Rebecca brushed her eyes, a tangled blend of feelings on her face. Sorrow for her spouse's public shame, but also subtle pride in his bravery to address it head-on. "I can't predict the next steps," Joel conceded, speaking to the followers again. "I lack a structured outline or encouraging close. For once I'm before you without preparation, without surety. All I grasp is I must be truthful with myself, with you all, and with God." The ensuing quiet was deep, a shared suspension, an instant of true devotional settlement no staging could fabricate. Then from a distant spot, one voice shouted, "We support you, Pastor Joel." More chimed in, not with unquestioning praise or staged zeal, but with something more precious, sincere backing. In a display of human weakness, Joel remained motionless, clearly touched by the reply. For maybe the first time in years, he wasn't acting for his followers. He was linking with them. Chuck advanced then, resting a palm lightly on Joel's back. "This," he stated, his tone resonating via the mic still attached to his neckline, "is genuine resilience, not avoiding falls but possessing the bravery to recover, to accept our essence, imperfections included." The terms draped the hall like a blessing. In that instant, the Inner Strength Summit fulfilled its pledge, though unexpectedly. Marcus, observing from the production area, eventually spoke again. "Switch to ad," he directed, though his inflection lacked prior thrill, "but preserve all this recording, every segment." As the transmission shifted to a prepared clip, Joel faced Chuck, their mics deactivated but visible to the live group. "I can't envision recovering from this," Joel confessed softly. Chuck's look was benevolent yet direct. Perhaps recovery isn't the goal, he proposed. Perhaps advancement is something more truthful. The terms suspended between them, a test and a summons. Around them, the vast hall hummed with vigor as thousands processed the witnessed event. Some remained astonished. Others huddled in fervent discussion. A few had already posted online, fingers racing over displays. What none grasped yet was they'd seen something stronger than expected motivation. They'd observed a metamorphosis start, the initial arduous phases from facade to essence. And in his place, young Ethan Cruz sensed something unforeseen rooting. Not the unquestioning respect he'd sought, but something superior. The insight that true resilience resided in the space between lapse and restoration, in the bravery to stumble openly and recover regardless. The principle his dad had imparted throughout. The ad intermission formed an odd halt, a paused interval between the exposed disintegration just seen and the forthcoming. In the hall, the vibe crackled with unease and ambiguity. 16,000 remained seated, devices gripped, posts surging across digital networks as the extraordinary instant expanded past the walls. Offstage, Joel convened with Rebecca and Chuck in a tight group, their talk shielded from the crowd but fervent in necessity. Joel's frame sagged, the assured stance of the nation's top minister supplanted by a man facing his meticulously built persona's ruins. "We can conclude now," Rebecca suggested, her palm on Joel's limb. "No blame after that occurrence. We can release a notice later once you've reflected." Joel dismissed. Slowly, his visage, typically lively with that signature grin, appeared aged under the stark offstage glow. "No," he uttered. Evading would affirm perceptions of our work's theatrical essence. He checked the platform where the timer displayed 45 seconds to resumption. "I must complete this." Chuck, mostly quiet during their dialogue, inclined mildly. "Regardless of your choice, recognize that your current reaction outweighs the prior event." Joel met his gaze, hunting for criticism but discovering only firm empathy. "Will you rejoin me out there?" he asked, the query bearing an openness unimaginable earlier. Chuck pondered. "Certain that's your wish?" "No," Joel conceded with a mirthless chuckle. "My wish is to reverse the past half hour. But absent that, yes, concluding our start is the sole route ahead." In the oversight station, Marcus hastily reorganized the transmission, his prior thrill replaced by a director's practical emphasis on rescuing the occasion. "We'll resume them jointly," he ordered his crew. "No tune entry, no vibrant visuals, just them pursuing the dialogue. This is authentic now. Avoid embellishment." His aide assented, eyes still expanded from the event. "This is either Joel Osteen's career finale," she whispered, "or a fresh start's onset." Marcus eyed her. "Either outcome, we hold this recording exclusively. All channels will contact us soon." Back in the hall, Ethan leaned ahead as the interior glow dimmed, indicating broadcast resumption. Around him, folks murmured urgently. Guesses abounded on the next phase. The typical glossy layer of Lakewood had vanished, leaving something raw and unforeseeable. The platform illumination rose gradually. No grand tune marked Joel and Chuck's return. They merely entered side by side and occupied two seats positioned centrally. Joel's change was evident even from distant rows. Absent was the dynamic strider, the expressive gestures, the entertainer directing like a maestro. Instead sat a humbled figure, still suited expensively, but somehow reduced or more relatable. The quiet lingered as Joel appeared to hunt for an entry. When he spoke, his tone lacked rehearsed flow. "Appreciate your presence," he stated plainly. "I recognize what occurred was unforeseen, even jarring. Leaving would be reasonable." He eyed Chuck, then the crowd. "I've devoted my profession to guiding victorious living, surmounting barriers via devotion and upbeat mindset, and that holds merit." "I maintain that." Joel halted, clearly composing himself. "But tonight I grasped something personal, something I've likely sensed inwardly but ignored. I've grown so attached to flawlessness image that I've overlooked authenticity, how to be merely mortal." The assembly stayed completely silent, jointly pausing as they observed something unparalleled. Joel Osteen communicating without gloss, without act, just bare fact. When Chuck discussed true resilience from moderation, from self-command over overpowering, something inside resisted because it revealed the divide between my preaching and living. Joel's tone coarsened. "I've dominated with optimism, with surety, never permitting uncertainty or hardship to surface." Chuck sat silently nearby, his attendants backing yet not overriding. This was Joel's path to traverse. "The paradox," Joel added with a pained chuckle, "is I just validated Chuck's view on true resilience publicly by showing its contrary." He faced Chuck, speaking straight through mics captured. "What ensued, your reply, that's the core lesson. That's what merits discussion." Chuck inclined mildly, urging Joel onward for distant viewers. Joel stated, pivoting to the crowd. When I aimed at Chuck, he faltered on the terms. The confession hurtful, he could have reciprocated. He was justified. Instead, he selected moderation, command, the resilience I questioned. In the crowd, Ethan leaned in, enchanted by the evolving instant. This was his purpose. Not refined sayings on resilience, but its authentic display, not in hostility, but in response to it. Chuck, Joel uttered, "I believe all here would gain from comprehending that instant's choice, because that demonstrated the resilience we required." Chuck weighed the plea before answering. When he spoke, his tone bore the serene certainty of someone at ease internally. No real decision existed, he stated plainly. After half a century in martial arts, my form reacted before thought processed. But the reaction wasn't retaliation. It was to diffuse without injury. He illustrated with his palms. The action deliberate and slow. A basic redirection, generating distance, preserving equilibrium while permitting yours. The description was mechanical, but the analogy resonated with listeners. The response wasn't assault, Chuck proceeded. It was equilibrium. In martial arts, we grasp that the firmest reply often employs minimal necessary force, not to overpower, but to reinstate balance. The terms drape the hall, bearing significance beyond the bodily show. In his place, Ethan felt alignment, a principle his dad taught on resilience measured by withheld force not applied. Joel inclined slowly, absorbing Chuck's insight. I approached with pride, he conceded, with arrogance, with image preservation over truth. And I replied with recognition, Chuck stated, not of the deed but the personhood behind. We all experience worse selves emerging. The query is, what follows? The query suspended, a test and summons, not solely to Joel but all hearing. Joel inhaled deeply, his stare sweeping the vast hall. I lack a tidy resolution, he conceded. No outlined message to improve all. I only know I must acknowledge my position. The divide between preaching and living. His tone fortified with true feeling over staged fervor. And perhaps that's resilience's true start. Not feigning completeness but admitting incompleteness. Not avoiding falls but recovery method. The statements echoed the area, not with Joel's typical assured declarations but something superior. Sincere pursuit of fact. Chuck assented. A basic respect for Joel's public self-confrontation. The vital response, he remarked softly, isn't our physical exchange. It's humility countering pride, sincerity countering act. Those demand utmost bravery. Something altered in the hall's vibe. A group tension release, a joint outbreath. What began as startling clash morphed into unforeseen. A true instant of devotional settlement. In the production area, Marcus viewed the screens wonderingly. We're no longer directing, he whispered to his aide. We're observing. On the platform, Joel faced Chuck, his look bearing rare public openness. I regret, he stated. Not merely the earlier event, but inviting you falsely. I didn't seek your insight. I sought brand enhancement, a stage element. The confession evidently taxed him, but he persisted. And when you declined that part, when you offered fact, I reacted angrily over gratefully. Chuck's reply was basic yet deep. Regret received, he stated. Then after brief silence, now how will you use this instant, Joel? This is conclusion or commencement. Your decision. The query lingered between compassion-wrapped challenge, transformation invite. Joel stayed quiet long, visibly digesting. When he spoke, his tone held fresh essence. Tentative sincerity replacing usual surety. I believe, he uttered gradually. I must cease concealing behind optimism, behind wealth, behind flawlessness. He scanned the followers, his look devoid of typical calculated appeal. I must begin honesty on struggles, doubts, failures. A whisper traversed the throng. Not censure, but identification. A group replied a speech from shared experience over elevation. Maybe, Chuck proposed mildly. That's the needed message. Not devotion rendering invincible, but granting vulnerability, bravery, sincerity, failure, and resurgence. Joel assented, something lifting in his look. A burden eased by genuine serenity's initial sparks. That's a message I endorse, he stated. Because it's valid. Because I've experienced it. Experiencing it now before you. He addressed the followers straight. His tone building force not from display now but fresh belief. I can't foresee this ministry's future, my place. But whatever follows must rest on fact. Not act, on sincerity, not facade. The statements resonated the vast area. A statement feeling like closure and origin. Across the hall, folks rose. Not earlier's coordinated reply, but true spontaneous backing. In his place, Ethan rose too. Something unforeseen expanding internally. He arrived seeking resilience inspiration, finding it in embraced openness. In public stumble bravery and truth recovery. Chuck stood from his seat, then offered a palm to Joel, not challenging but united. Joel accepted, standing beside. Diminished yet unbroken. Altered yet perhaps fortified meaningfully. This, Chuck remarked softly, though the mic spread his terms hall-wide, is true influence. Not fall avoidance, but wiser resurgence, as the pair stood platform-bound. The fighter icon and humbled minister, discipline expert and authenticity learner. Something deep conveyed wordlessly. True resilience isn't perfect act, but imperfection embrace, not overpowering, but self-command. The stage-shaking response wasn't Chuck's bodily reply to Joel's attempt. It was the unexpected fact that actual influence often resembles embraced openness over denied frailty. And as the hall burst in cheers, not religious habit's polite reply but sincere humanity recognition, that fact rippled outward via live lenses to millions, via recording devices sharing, via witnesses' hearts including young Ethan Cruz, seeking resilience answers and discovering unexpectedly. In Failure Redemption Space, in Pretense Reality Gap, the exact principle his dad lived, to the close. By morning, the recording spread widely. Hashtags Osteen attempts strike and Norris responds led every network. Breakfast. Programs looped the segment ceaselessly. Joel's rising strain, the attempt, Chuck's serene reply, and most striking, the ensuing raw sincerity. Some labeled it professional ruin. Others praised it as contemporary devotional transmission's sincerest instant. Ethan Cruz awoke to device alerts buzzing. Acquaintances aware of his attendance queried endlessly. He browsed responses, viewing the event analyzed variously. Memes emerged, mostly humorous, but some seizing underlying deep lesson. True resilience isn't the attempt, it's the reply. Chuck Norris meditated hotel-bound. Device off intentionally. After public life's half-century, he knew serenity internal, not external approval. His spouse Gina arrived with brew and soft grin. Storm brewing outside, she noted. All outlets seek interviews. Your view? Chuck inquired, prizing her insight utmost. Gina pondered. Important occurrence last night. Beyond show. You allowed transformation space, sincerity. Chuck assented. The query now is Joel's use of that space. Houston Cross in Osteen home. Joel sat amid success proofs, honors, top sellers, celebrity shots. Rebecca windowside, device held, look serious. Board requests urgent session, she informed. Key contributors contacted. Network worries message inconsistency. Joel assented distractedly. Focus on tablet flooding reactions. For image-based career, commentary wave should devastate. Yet internal shift occurred. Feared worst happened, yet he breathed. Your thoughts? Rebecca queried. Joel paused before reply. Recalling Dad's saying, crisis merely close-viewed junction. He set tablet down, 2 decades instructing devotion storm shields. What if mistaken? What if devotion aids storm endurance, not evasion? The query is audience desire for that from you, Rebecca stated. Trust post last night. Joel assented. We'll discover. At Lakewood, admin hummed frantic. Marcus Hale strode production space. Managing exclusive recording offers now most discussed devotional instant recently. CNN bids 6 figures for raw tape. Aide reported. Fox MSNBC bid war. Marcus dismissed. Emotions complex on face. Director saw chance but something pulled. Sense of sacred witness not for sale. Informal. Options under review, he decided. Beyond viewership. Aide brow raised. You all right, Chief? Marcus eyed monitor freeze frame. Joel Chuck united. Openness and resilience one image. Uncertain, he conceded. But think I recalled business entry reason. Citywide Ethan eyed Chuck Norris card slipped post-event. Backhand written personal digit. For real resilience talk contact. CN before deciding call device alerted news. Joel Osteen sets special gathering post-viral event. Truth time, minister states. Digital networks detonated speculation. Some foresaw crafted regret for brand salvage. Others pondered resignation. Seats gratis claimed instantly. Ethan grabbed one, compelled to follow narrative. Tonight's occurrence would mold not merely Joel's path, but possibly faith, sincerity, public figure dialogue digitally. As dusk neared, Lakewood exterior vibe differed. Absent elaborate glows, promo signs. Waiting mood subdued, anticipatory. Less show attendees, more reckoning observers. Indoors, Marcus got clear directives. No effects, no dramatic beams, no music prep, just lone seat, mic platform. He desires total minimalism, Marcus clarified. Him in fact alone. Devices door collected, unprecedented sparking protest and regard. Tonight unfiltered by displays, edits. Experience direct, collective live. At 7 sharp sans intro, Joel platform entered. Change immediate. Absent tailored suit, simple trousers, open collar replaced. Absent rehearsed grin. Instead something less refined, more engaging. Man pretense stripped. Joel seated, mic adjusted, scanned, packed hall. Long instant silent, absorbing moment scale. When spoke, tone lacked performance. Thanks for attending, he started plainly. I know concern draws some. Curiosity others, perhaps end witnessing. He paused, possibly correct. This may end something, but hope starts better, truer. Hall-wide, folks attended rapt, sensing not prepared address, but true settlement. 2 decades, Joel proceeded. I've advocated victory gospel, abundance, and message holds truth. God desires thriving. But destination focus think I've dishonored journey, hardship, uncertainty, human fall rise process. Terms suspended unadorned sans tune or dramatic halts. Just bare fact. Last night, many saw public shortfall. Joel conceded. Could blame tension, pressure, but truth simpler. Lost performance, living faith distinction. Hall-wide, folks immobile as witnessed unprecedented. Prominent minister not spinning laps, but fully entering truth. I can't specify next exactly, Joel conceded. Voice strengthening honesty over surety. Just no different. Real, even messy, uncertain. As spoke, vibe shifted. Group exhale. Mega church gloss stripped, leaving fragile yet genuine. No points poem tonight. Joel stated, small deprecating grin. Just truth. Journeying. Like you. Flawed. Learning, but real committed. Even messy. As Joel mic distanced, hall silence suspended long. Then midsection one rose. Another. Soon space-wide standing, not coordinated, but true vulnerable truth courage acknowledgement. Rear positioned, Ethan rose, unexpected chest unfolding. Not unquestioning praise, but deeper, messy, imperfect authenticity journey respect. Dad modeled to end. Week later, Lakewood transformed. Absent theatrical glows, branded signs. Vast screens dark. Seating rearranged, intimate despite scale. Vibe pulse different pre-gathering thrill. Collective breath hold before unknown dive. Ethan front-seated personal Joel office invite. Past week transformative. Chuck resilience sincerity talks. Hours dad legacy reflection. Growing sense spectacle evolving significant. Rebecca Osteen congregation moved quiet warm greetings. Eyes complex. Spouse concerned crisis emergence hope steady faith public scrutiny weathered. Back nearly unseen, Chuck Norris' wife entered. Nothing showy, simple collar shirt, trousers. Recognized nod, no grand entry, seated like any. 11 sharp sans music intro, Joel stage entered. Prior week change apparent. Not just casual wear or signature grin absence, but fundamental, grounded, sincere presence. Approached simple wood stand replacing sleek podium. Moment stood absorbing faces. Good morning began tone sounds performative zeal. Thanks presence. Especially questions, uncertainty, expected answers lacking yet. Honesty those words. Own uncertainty acknowledgement set tone. Past week deep reflection Joel proceeded. Your messages read, prayed, listened over, spoke once. Small deprecating smile lips. Amazing heard when quiet finally. Gentle laughter ripple congregation. Not mockery, identification. No polished message today, Joel stated. Simpler, harder something, truth, paused, composing. Years preached victory gospel. Breakthrough, God best wanting, prosperity, success, abundance. Joel tone steady, words cost expression evident. Still believe God thriving once, but think misunderstood true abundance. Seat Ethan intent watched, struck Joel humility. Not control damage. True reckoning. True abundance, Joel proceeded. Not material success, perfect situations measured. Found authenticity, real courage ourselves, each other, God. Even reality struggle, doubt, failure includes. Words air hung unadorned music. Truth performance sounds offered. Last week public failure witnessed, Joel conceded. Not control loss only, but preach live gap. Projected image beneath reality. Deep breath, gaze congregation swept. Could say revelation, now perfect understand. Head shook, but another performance. Truth beginning journey, not end. More questions, answers now. Think authentic faith starts there. Sanctuary throughout, people still utterly rare religious leadership witnessing. Prominent pastor not failure spinning, but implications fully stepping. What no, Joel proceeded, done perfection hiding, scripted messages, camera smiles. Want real build you. Community authentic struggles, hope holding. Seat Chuck quiet approval watched. Not confrontation win satisfaction, but genuine transformation witness recognition. Want thank Chuck Norris, Joel stated, present sensing as. Not heated moment grace only, but true strength showing. Not fall never found, fall after rise how. Heads turned Chuck located. Words simple not acknowledged. Sorry, Joel stated, voice quieter. Time's faith formula presented over relationship. Certainty offered mystery acknowledged should. Culture created appearance authenticity over mattered. Words sanctuary settled. Not theatrical self-punish, but honest concede. Don't know next exactly, Joel conceded, but real must. Messy complicated even. Podium stepped, stage center moved. Invite Chuck join willing if, Joel stated. Not dramatic reconcile, but wisdom all need now think. Moment consideration after Chuck rose, quiet dignity stageway made. Two men faced, background approach different so, yet profound something connected now. Shared true strength understanding. Joel hand extended. Chuck took, handshake simple genuine. Thank you, Joel quiet said. Restraint showing none showed I. Demonstrating teaching should along all. Chuck nodded, expression serious compassionate. All moments emotion wisdom overwhelms. Said matters not fall. Learn way back up. Word sanctuary resonated, not empty saying but hard truth won. Ethan chest tighten felt dad similar philosophy cancer recalling. Not never falling son. Back up how? 50 years Marshall Chuck proceeded. Learned strongest opponents balance never lose not. Regain quickly know who. Vulnerability opportunity turn who. Joel turned. Expression direct kind. Witness not failure just authentic something beginning courage more any fight faced. Question now Chuck stated. Treat momentary scandal pass move or foundation authentic more. Something acknowledges real faith doubt includes real strength weakness includes sanctuary throughout. People forward leaned simple truth captivated. Space spectacle prioritized too often. No need sermon rap Joel concluded. Expression performance weight no longer. All promised journey committed authentic building. Not perfect. Missteps will but real. Sanctuary throughout people feet rose not orchestrated response but vulnerability. Such required courage, genuine recognition. Ethan them stood. Unexpected chest unfolding something. Not blind praise but valuable more. Messy imperfect becoming real journey respect public fall and truth again rise. Journey very dad months final modeled. Authenticity appearance overvaluing end until. As congregation stood applause not religious entertainment practiced zeal, but truth spoken performance without genuine recognition. Profound something communicated. True redemption never falling not found but courage again rise wisdom greater before with. Not perfect image maintaining but humanity authentic embracing flaws doubts struggles all. Not others faith performing but honestly living. Journey weakness moments failure includes even. Stage shook counter not Chuck physical response just. Emerged truth counterintuitive. Real power domination not found but restraint. Not never falling but again rising wisdom greater before with. Truth ripple outward continue would. Transforming not one man one ministry just but conversation potentially faith itself world hungry performance. Beyond something. Authentic something. Real something. Up next, 2 more incredible stories waiting you. Click image want watch it take there. Enjoyed video this sure subscribe. Mean lot.